Welcome to Season 2 of Rooted and Reaching, a podcast about startups, entrepreneurs, and innovation in the South Bend-Elkhart region of Indiana. I'm Marty Mechtenberg.
And I'm Susan Ford. We're excited to share 16 new stories with you this year. And we're going to get tactical about how entrepreneurs are confronting challenges, building success, and moving our region into the future. Welcome to this episode of Rooted and Reaching. We are delighted to have you. We have Len Morris, the CEO of Viewrail, to join us today. And you came in from Goshen today, is that right?
I did. Long journey over. Nice to be here.
Very good. Well, thank you so much. And now remind our listeners really quickly, are you from Goshen originally?
I grew up in Ohio.
Okay.
Yeah.
Very nice. And
Came to Bethel College at the time, now Bethel University, and had a great experience there and met a girl and haven't left Northern Indiana since.
And the rest is history, as they say. So I am really excited to talk about Viewrail today. However, I wanted to connect the dots on a few things. I did a little bit of research on your background, and I think I saw somewhere that you are described as an empathetic contrarian, that you at one point were a pastor, and now you are leading a modern stair company based in Goshen, competing across the globe. So I want to connect the dots on all of those. Can I put that
I would
to
love
you?
for you to connect the dots because I'm still trying to connect.
Okay. But I'll give you first stab at trying.
Sure. So life is about leading people for me, and it's about seeing more in people than they probably see in themselves and trying to draw that out of them and help them believe that they can accomplish a little bit more than what they thought when they first walked in the door. So that's my mission and challenge, whether that is on in a spiritual level of trying to connect them with the life that Jesus Christ is calling them to, or if it's on the practical level of seeing that they can design and create products that they never thought was possible. They can serve a customer in a way that maybe they didn't understand before. So that's what I try to do in life.
That's pretty extraordinary. The moment you said it, I see the dots connecting. That's really, really exciting. And I imagine you have an unbelievable culture as a function of that. Could you talk about that?
Yeah, we work really hard on culture. And our great challenge is always balancing the really hard push to excellence and to finding ways to accomplish great things, along with the people that want to be pushed and want to find excellence in creating great things, because that isn't for everyone. And many people see, really good things are happening at Viewrail in terms of pay, or they know somebody they aspire to be like who's working there. And they come and find out like, oh, wow, this is really hard. And like the expectations are high and they want us to be really, really good at what we do. And so the culture will self-replicate as we attract people who want like things. And so that's what we work on every day, is holding a really high standard and helping people achieve it.
I love that. This is one of my most favorite topics to talk about, culture, because I've often heard, culture isn't what you do, but it's how things actually happen. And I think your point about expectations and holding people to that. Could you talk a little bit about values? Because I think values and culture are very interwoven.
Yeah, so we have 3 values that we work really hard on. First is eternal. We want to treat every person as an eternal being. We see and understand that there's a lot more going on than just stairs and railings. And a piece of that eternal, for many of the people, we are building the home that they saved their entire life to build. Or we're building their vacation home where they want to do something really special. And so we're making that environment something that they are really looking forward to. And we want to treat all of our employees, our vendors, truck drivers that are delivering things as those eternal beings, because we're all contributing to something much greater than what we are just in our own humanity. So then our second value is responsive. We are incredibly responsive to our customers, to the market and their needs in new product development, and to our employees. Our employees have a need, a training need, a need for a better tool. We want to move very quickly to providing those tools for them. And the third is flourishing. We want everyone who touches our brand to flourish. Whether you're a vendor, a customer, or a homeowner, an architect, we want to see everyone flourish in all of what they do.
Okay, so talk more about how did those values get established?
We're on version 6 probably of these values, and they, we've had different words and different points. We really wrestled around with them because it usually starts with a really long list of here are of 21 things that we value.
Yep.
And then you whittle it down to 7, and then getting it down to 3 is really, really hard. And we kind of got them in a bit of the order. This eternal is like the first building block that has to go in. Mm-hmm. And so the values have just been something we've talked about a lot as a leadership team, and mm-hmm. this is what we've worked them down to be.
I love that. It speaks on every level, and it's evident that you guys have it's 360 and everything. I get that. Going back to what I think our listeners would love to hear more about. I love that it's version 6, right? So can you go back to when was the first conversation? What was the very tactical? Was it the leadership team in a room at an offsite? Was it how did it actually get formed? The first iteration.
So, first iteration is we tend to have our senior leadership meetings slightly off site, and it probably either happened in a coffee shop in Goshen, or in I've got this little patio place at my house that we end up having a lot of our meetings at. And so we're sitting around in a circle and chairs and in an informal setting that is away from the distractions of the normal. But it's not full blown have to go on a retreat and we're gone for a day. It's for 2 hours. Mm-hmm. And there was a prompt that would have gone out mm-hmm. several days before. And we just begin talking about what do we really want to value? And one of the challenges is not asking the question in the past, what did we value? But being aspirational. And the values are always a bit aspirational.
Absolutely.
Are we hitting the mark every day? Are we totally responsive to every customer within the time frame exactly what we expect it to be? Because my expectation is a text message needs to get a response within minutes. A voicemail needs to be a response with either in that same segment of the day. It's either if you get a voicemail in the morning, you need to respond in the morning. If you get in the afternoon, you respond in the afternoon. Emails should be responded in 2 hours. Do we always hit that? No, we don't always. But we want to aspire to being that kind of responsive. Does everyone flourish? No, not. I wish they did, but not everyone is going to flourish. But we can try to create a culture where we have that opportunity, and we aspire to that.
I love that. And I'm going to poke on this just a little bit more because I think that the building of a firm culture I think the culture is what happens because of these other intentional things, right? So if you were here talking about your values, but didn't have examples of how people lived it, then these are just words on a plaque, right? Versus how you are intentionally living them. And I love, so you start with a group of people in a coffee shop on your patio, having this conversation. And then do you revisit these kind of structurally on an annual basis? Do you look at them every 2 years? Or do you feel now at this iteration, this moment of your business, is this what they are for?
Well, 2 senior leader meetings ago, I brought up the question of, I may want to change value number 2. Currently, it's sitting on responsive. So you heard it here on this podcast first, folks. Of changing that word responsive to proactive, because I'd like to even be more forward thinking, that we don't just respond, we're proactive, we're even ahead of people's requests. So we want to be very slow moving on changes to our values. Now, if everything in my life I like to go really, really fast at and like to iterate very quickly, except on these values, we're going to move slowly on these. And once they are formed, they need to not be a head yank and a constant spinning for people in the org or in our customers. They want to see this permanency and constancy. I think it's going to take decades for these values to really be totally cemented into everyone's mind. They don't happen in 6 months.
I think that's right. Although I'm smiling as you say that because you're being very proactive with how you are unveiling this, which I appreciate. And I also, one of the mantras I always think about is people don't hear anything or absorb it till you've said it at least 7 times, right? And so maybe here on the podcast, but then it is in the newsletters, in the emails, in the leadership, in the celebration of awards, right? All the different ways that you have to hit people with that. How do you celebrate values and culture within your organization?
Well, hour by hour, day by day, week by week, month by month, year by year. And so I try to walk through, my goal is to walk through a plant every day and to be on a job site, seeing a builder, seeing something in real life every week. And so as I'm walking through a plant every day, I'm seeking to try to celebrate one of those values. Find somebody who's being really responsive and to affirm them for that. To model being very responsive. I certainly hope if you email me, text message me, call me, you'll find me to be very responsive. So I try to model that as well. And so then we're going to celebrate that on a monthly cadence. We have a company-wide meeting that we do every month. It's about 20 minutes long. We're doing it at about 3 different formats on 2 of our campuses and then 1 for our remote workers. And we celebrate those values all throughout that meeting and things that people are doing, ways in the market rewarded us, and things we've done for our customers.
That's wonderful. Okay, so I want to switch gears for a second and think about your journey as an entrepreneur. And we talk a lot about this region. We are a region that makes things. It's a very great time, I think, to be thinking about entrepreneurship and innovation in our region. But I imagine what you needed when you were first getting started is different now than as you are an established entrepreneur. So talk a little bit about the very beginning and some of the support you got along the way, or what you didn't get and wish we could pay forward to the next batch of entrepreneurs, startup entrepreneurs.
Yeah, so I think the easiest way to start as an entrepreneur is in service. And I started several service-based entrepreneurship things. Like, we could digress on this, but I was in high school and I started a company cleaning VCRs. I dated myself a bit here. And so I would get contracts with schools. I found out who has a lot of VCRs. Schools have a lot of them. And so I think most entrepreneurs start its service at some level because the barrier to entry is extremely low. I need a little alcohol and some Q-tips. You need a bucket and some soap, and you can start a entrepreneurial cleaning company or a car washing company or something. And as you're doing service, you start to realize, wow, I am limited by the number of hours. Like, I can only be paid for the hours in which I am working. And I would like to leverage that as an entrepreneur. I'd like to find a way to do that a little bit more. And so we tend to add on a product. Well, let me sell you a product alongside of this service so that I can leverage that. And then after a little while, you say, well, rather than just selling my service and selling someone else's product, how about I make that product myself? And I private label that product. And so then the evolution goes to private labeling. So this is kind of the evolution of me in stairs. I started out serving. I was just kind of providing the transportation and logistics of stair parts. And I was going to local Amish shops, buying them from 8 different Amish shops, bringing a package together and serving a builder. And I said, well, maybe I could come up with a way I could make some of those things myself. And so then I started making some of them myself. And
can I interrupt you really quickly?
Yeah,
you looked like you were on a roll, but like when you were doing this, were you doing something else full time? Was this your full time thing?
I pretty much pivoted from the beginning was a little bit in my garage and making a few things in my garage. And when I left my role at Warsaw Missionary Church, I thought I was going to another church and found out I wasn't, and kind of that offer melted down. And so I was kind of thrust into it full time. Okay. And so that was the occasion, was jumping in deep into the pool. We got to swim. 2 little kids, and we had bills. So
That's stressful.
It was stressful,
Yep.
and that stress is focusing on the decisions that need to be made.
Mm-hmm.
And so we're iterating through this cycle of buying things from other people to transitioning to say, well, we can make this ourselves and get a little bit more control of the process. But it's still me too. I'm still just really, it's designs that were in the public domain, been there for a long time. And then about 12, 15 years ago, we decided we need to have a product that is our own. We need to design something that solves real problems that customers really have. And we need to manufacture it, design it, and market it as our own. And that became the whole turning point. Like, once that happened, like, margin started to be a real thing, and we weren't limited by the margins that the industry had already established. Like, if you're selling a product that's already well established, is already well known, the margin is already defined.
Yep.
But once you create a product that solves a problem that the market hasn't already defined, it hasn't yet defined the margin. And so that's a bit of why there has to be a continual evolution and iteration of product. And as soon as you think that, oh, I've got this product, I've got this patent, I've got this thing, I got it, we're golden, you're dead.
Yep.
And it needs to be a constant iteration. You see that the classical entrepreneur is already on to the next thing before the first thing is almost even on to market. Mm-hmm. And so that's a lot of where I live now, is like, what is the next thing? And we've got a whole team that's
taking care of right now.
Selling the right now.
Yeah. I love that. I'd like to just talk a little more, because I think there's so many insightful lessons in that. So the point about the margin not yet being written or being understood by the market, did you intuitively know that? Is this something you can look back and reflect on, that was the opportunity? Like, talk more about how that actually happened.
I would love to give the proper footnote to whoever the right person is.
Yep.
That taught me this. I don't know who it was. Somewhere along the line, I heard the phrase, where there's mystery, there's margin. And so always be on the edge of the mysterious. And so we're constantly trying to find that iterative way of, I want people to look at my product and say, like, how did they do that? Like, wow, that's really creative. How did they accomplish that? And I think when we're living on that edge of the mysterious is where the beauty is found.
I love that. I love that. And I'm thinking about entrepreneurs who are starting right now. I mean, I think that is a great nugget, and we'll figure out who said that and what that can mean. My experience in my own career has been, like, I can see themes as I look back, but I didn't know that I was doing that thing in the moment. And maybe in this next chapter of my career, I can be more intentional about that. I guess one other way to look at it, so at that moment when you were really going to be very thoughtful and strategic about design, did you already have that mystery and the margin in the mystery thinking, and that was part of the driver?
Yeah. I think I've understood that one. That one goes way back, and I don't know where its origins are, but that origin was in the whole thinking in that process. The challenge is to make sure that we're solving a real problem with this mystery, a problem that really exists. It's really easy to build a straw man problem, and in our industry, if I have to solve a problem for who the real customer is. And we work with thousands of installers, and I love our installers, but the installer is not our customer. And solving a problem from them is really cool, but it's the person who's living in the home who's going to interact with it every day for the rest of their life. Eternally. That's who I really need to solve a problem for. For the mom who wants her kids to feel safe, for the dad who wants to come home and say, wow, those lights look beautiful on that stairway, for the entertainers who want to open up the door and have their guests be, wow, that's beautiful. So we have to focus on this mystery of being on the edge of solving a real problem for the real customer. And too often, we can go into this land of the mysterious and solving strawman problems.
I love that. I feel like there's a whole future podcast on all of that. So we'll save that for next time. So let's take that back to the journey of being an entrepreneur. So now you are in large, established, very successful business in Goshen, Indiana. And you're spending your time thinking about what's next. What support and resources are you getting from the region? Is there more that you would like? There is no right or wrong answer, but this is a true tell us, because our goal, I think, as a partnership, the hat that I wear today, is like, how do we make sure? I heard a rumor you have a son starting on an entrepreneurial venture. And so how do we ensure that the next batch of startup leaders can be in your shoes 5 years from now, 10 years from now?
Yes, I think the things that I would challenge, encourage, and ask you to do is to provide great opportunities for entrepreneurs to be able to just sit down and have a lunch and hear a story and be inspired by another entrepreneur who's gonna push them along. It's just gonna maybe take them the next step along the way. I think in my entrepreneurial journey, I didn't need and didn't want someone taking me by the hand and walking me along with me every step along the way. Mm-hmm. But I probably needed some really important nudges at some key moments. Mm-hmm. And I got those nudges from a number of people along my journey. And those nudges would have often just come in a word. There's one gentleman, Ed Lugbill. He's kind of my spiritual mentor and confidant. And we meet a handful of times a year, and he's just very insightful to cut into where I am at as a human being and where I'm at as God's child and things I need to work on. And he'll nudge those. And every now and then, every few months or whatever, I'll have a quick exchange with another really successful entrepreneur in the area, and I'll just gather something out of there that is that push that I need. Being an entrepreneur, in some ways, we don't really like formal established systems. So we're always going to rebel against the established systems. Is this
the empathetic contrarian that saw?
This is not the empathetic part. This is just
the contrarian. Okay, let's go.
If it is an organized system and somebody else has already figured it out, I'm probably not interested. I think if you really are an entrepreneur, you're probably not interested in systems that are already figured out. And so I would challenge you to create things that have some mystery around them and are about the entrepreneur where they are at, which is in the middle of trying to bring some organization to a lot of chaos. Mm-hmm. And they're about trying to solve really difficult puzzles. And entrepreneurs, in my belief, are probably more about themed game nights than they are lecture series. You're probably not going to get me to sit down at a lecture series, but if you had a really thorny robotics problem and you wanted to give us, a bunch of us, a chance to come and sit in the room and try to solve the problem, I'll raise my hand, I'll show up, and I'll be there.
That's awesome. I'm in my brain thinking about, is it Nudges with Len or robot problem solve? I don't have it coined yet, but I thank you for volunteering to host one of those. That's what I heard.
That's what I just did.
I think that's exactly what happened. No, that is wonderful. So one of my questions, you are a leader, you are out there, you're very public. What are misperceptions that people have about you?
Wasn't prepared for that. Probably that I got it all figured out and I got it all together. Because I come across pretty confident, pretty collected. I got about 3% figured out. And it's 90% we're just making it up in the moment based upon gut and intuition. That would be one of those nudges. Dan Beal, who I look at as a bit of a mentor. I entered a business relationship with him several years ago, and I would ask him challenging things. He said, Len, you need to be able to listen to your gut and make a decision based upon what your gut's saying, because you spent a lot of time gathering up experiences which have calibrated your gut to make these decisions. And if you don't trust your gut to make these, then you're really not going to be very successful as an entrepreneur, because you're going to be caught in an analysis paralysis and overanalyzing things. So to think that I got it all figured out, that would be a misperception. To think that I am ever the smartest person in the room. I'm rarely the smartest person in the room, but my job is to make sure I have gotten a lot of smart people in the room.
Well, thank you. Thank you for answering that. And your humility comes through in spades. So I appreciate that. And I can see why your team would be so excited to show up every day and live the values, be part of this amazing culture. I heard a great quote the other day. I'm going to botch it, but it's about when giving feedback in cultures where you have high expectations. Mm-hmm. I am giving you this feedback because I know that you can reach these expectations.
Yeah. We read the same thing.
I love that.
Yeah.
I love that. And it de-escalates everything, and then you can give really hard transformative feedback so anyway, so I can I'm excited. I think you may or may not know, but one of your new colleagues is a former colleague of mine, Ryan Biggs. So could you tell us a little bit about the Midwest West Coast connection for a second?
Sure. Ryan is president of the West Coast for us. We divide the country into 5 regions. He'll probably listen to this and maybe he'll write me something ornery back. But Ryan came to us and he had a lot of background in apparel, a lot of brands that were rather flashy. And he came and said, you know what, Len, I've heard great things and I'd really like to be a part of Viewrail. And it's like, okay, we're going to put you in an immersion as a leader. And a part of that immersion as a leader, you're going to work every different area throughout the company. And we're going to do that for about 3 months, and we're going to see where you land. And I thought he would last about 2 weeks. There was a poll on him. And
contrarian note being written right now. Keep going. Yes.
And so number 1 is show up at the plant and work the whole week with the production crew. They start at 4 a.m. And I get a text message from him at 3:30 that first morning. He said, so when did the doors open? And he was already there waiting on the door. So I said, okay, good start. And he really leaned in and immersed, and he built incredible relationships. And it was not a box checking moment for him to go through production, shipping, accounting, project engineering, sales. It was an opportunity to build relationships. And so now as he's moved to the West Coast, he has all those relationships. Hey, he was the guy who was here early that morning and gave the plant manager a cup of coffee. And so when he calls that plant manager and says, hey, I need this thing, that plant manager remembers that, not as the guy who checked the box, but as the guy who came in and gave his all. And I think it's just that incredible reminder for all of us that every single moment as a leader, as an entrepreneur, we're being watched. And the relationships that we build when we don't even know that what's going on around us are sometimes the most important ones.
I think that is a great nugget and a nudge, hopefully, for other leaders. And I am excited when we have, I'm thinking as you're talking, Ryan is flourishing, right? And I love that. And I think it's a great story for us as these Midwestern businesses in smaller second cities that people don't necessarily know about are doing these big things in these big markets. So with that, I just want to say thank you so much for coming, sharing your story. And I hope you will continue to be part of this as we pay it forward to the next generation.
One last thing.
Yes.
We need to stop looking down on ourselves as this second, I'm not sure what term you use, second tier, second level city.
Just to clear, secondary markets.
Secondary markets.
So yes,
we're secondary nothing. We are leading the way in manufacturing, and I'm not talking about Viewrail. I'm talking about us as a region.
I couldn't agree with you more.
And we need to be proud of that. And we need to take that message everywhere we go, because wherever I travel in the country or in the world, I see our products. And I see our products absolutely leading the way, and we need to be proud of the incredible manufacturing horsepower we have.
I love that. That's an even longer conversation, because I think that's been when Brad Chambers was the Secretary of Commerce, he was so surprised by some of the just like foregone conclusion that we're not going to win these things. And he actually absolutely flipped it on its head. Absolutely. And I love that. And my only point is I just mean size of markets. So that because I'm
a contrarian. I have to argue with that.
I know. And I'm going to contrary back. And so we're actually on the same point with this one. So I love it. I think that we need to continue to tell this story, celebrate it. And it's probably to our advantage if they underestimate us, because we're going to surprise everybody.
Absolutely. We'll sung them.
Yeah, I love that. Well, very good. Thank you so much, Len. Thank you for being here today. And thank you to all of our listeners. To be continued.
Thanks, Susan.